Good evening, everyone. We are calling the Board of Directors meeting for the month of June. To order at 5:03. Mr. Geiger, are you
Yes.
ready to give us present our acknowledgement?
Yes, I am. The British chief, the Tonka, Haida, and Tsimshian people respectfully acknowledge them as the original inhabitants of Southeast Alaska. Part of the regional hospital is located in the homeland of Tuan. We are grateful to provide services in your ancestral homeland to be part of this community.
Thank you. I'm here to do this. There. Dr. Hernandez? I'm here. I'm here. Chris Letterman?
Here.
Dr. Kiki?
Here.
Max Mertz?
Here.
Lisa Peterson? I'm here. Al Geiger?
Present.
Dr. Rasser?
Here.
Deb Johnson? Here. Here. All right. I just want to comment that before we approve these under the full agenda tonight, and one of, if you've had a chance, if you were at the finance committee, or if you've had a chance to review the financial statements, normally we just keep it on the consent agenda, which we're going to accept the financial. I'm recommending we accept the financial statements as presented. However, we will take a little deeper dive than normal in the committee section of the committee report section of the agenda, based on the results for the month of. So now, with that being said, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the consent agenda.
I'd like to second, except did you want to move any advanced practice credentialing? Is that on the consent agenda?
It is on the consent.
Oh, I see, that's on college.
Yeah.
Okay, I second that, that's.
Is there any objection? Seeing none. Do we have any public participation? Don't believe seeing anyone. Great. Now what we, as you might have seen, that we've rearranged the agenda just a little bit. So I'd like to move into old business so those folks can do their presentation, and then we will, after that, go into executive session to go over the items that were being presented from Stronghold. So, Ms. McGowan, Madam Chair.
After my hospital capacity update, I'd like to give just a brief update on the construction project. So the hospital capacity update, patient days for CCU in May were 85, med surg 382, MHU 222, OB 73, newborn nursery 56. The ED saw almost a little under 1,100 patients last month. And we are currently holding 2 for long-term care and 2 for subacute rehab. And I'll pause and see if there's any questions over that. And then the quick update on the ED, I believe it was last week, they did an ED construction stop. They uncovered some conduits. Nobody was quite sure what was in them. There was no historical record of what was in them. So they obtained a piece of equipment, I believe, from Fairbanks, to be able to penetrate the conduit to see what was in there. We have a meeting this week to determine what it is in there, what the next steps are, and I'll be able to update probably in planning if needed, if we have a planning committee this week or this month, next month. And that's.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. McGowan? Great.
And question.
Okay.
How many co-triage days? No, I think we were at, don't have that number. I apologize. I can go back. I think the last count I had was 5. That's probably a good thing for me to track.
Home health and hospice.
Good afternoon. So we continue to make positive headway in most of the areas. Our average daily census in hospice was the highest since March of 2023 at 8.4 patients per day. We had 10 admissions this month in hospice, the highest going back to last year. And visits continue to increase, productivity is up, revenue is up significantly. And we're just continuing to work on our quality improvement opportunities and working to provide additional education to our staff moving forward.
Any questions? We do have a couple of action items.
And Dr. Taylor Dunn has been the hospice medical director. And Dr. Murray Butner would be taking over as the medical director with Dr. Dunn remaining as a hospice associate physician. And so we're asking that that be recognized. And according to that point.
Okay, yeah, I move the Board of Directors of Bartlett Hospital appoint Dr. Murray Butner to be the Home Health and Hospice Medical Director effective July 1, 2026.
Thank you. The next item is the advisory committee.
And this reflects the update of the position from Dr. Dunn to Dr. Butner. And would recommend be accepted.
And this doesn't require action.
This is more
This is information.
You've already done it.
All right, and finally,
The Medicare in the state of Alaska require that when the administrator is unavailable for any reason, that there be an alternate administrator so designated, and would recommend that the chief nursing officer be named as the alternate home health and hospice administrator, which would be posted for all to see. And would recommend that be approved.
That's great. Yes, I move the Board of Directors of Bartlett Regional Hospital appoint the CNO as Chief Nursing Officer as the alternate Home Health and Hospice Administrator in the absence of the board appointed administrator.
are there any objections to that motion?
But if I could, as a point of order, do we need to specify the person or the position? The motion is to put the position. You see what I mean?
I do see what you mean. But it makes sense to appoint the position rather than the person. In the event that the individual is either as a designee or is no longer in the position.
If that meets the regulatory requirement, then I.
All right. Thank you. Next on the agenda, Laura Court.
Skills. Good evening, everyone. So our average daily census in May went up to 55, just over 55. And our census today is 55. We had an occupancy rate of 87. So seeing an increase there as well. And if it's okay, I'd just like to briefly share, we did have our health licensing certification this month. On June 8th, our surveyors showed up, unannounced survey, and for health. And then the following week on June 16th, the life survey surveyor showed up. And so both surveys I thought went really well. The teams were informative and supportive, and our staff did an excellent job while they were here. We learned a lot about our processes. We did receive a handful of citations. As expected, I'd like it to be perfect, but, you know, it's always good to have things to improve on. You know, a lot of it was around gaps in our paperwork. And then for our life safety survey, it just showed a couple of minor, you know, extension cord issues, things like that. And then again, with our emergency preparedness, it was just essentially missing information in our emergency plan. It's not that we weren't doing things, it just wasn't presented in our plan. And so that was a fixed same day. So overall, I thought I went really well. This week, we are working on plan of correction. We have a finite amount of time to submit that back to the state for approval, and that's what we're working on now. So. Not able to do all this.
Are there any questions? Let's go. Thank you very much. That's good news. Oh, foundation, sorry. Ms. McCormick,
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
yes, you can.
Okay, the application cycle for our 26-27 academic year has been concluded. The board has selected our scholarship recipients. The awardees will be notified this week, probably tomorrow. We have 8 returning Edelmans. 3 of them have an estimated completion date of 2027. And we have 6 new college students and 2 new high school students that are all in that amount. The total awarded will be the most that we have given out in history, which is $37,500. So that does represent our largest scholarship distribution. The Foundation for Kids Art in the Halls program, we are working with some new frames. Some of the other ones are starting to fall apart. And so we're working to have some of the new artwork matted and will be displayed throughout the hospital in the upcoming weeks. The coffee stand seems to still be doing really well. And we've had a lot of really great comments about the quality and the variety of the offerings that we do have at the coffee shop. So that's a little bit of an upswing. So that's been really great news. I spoke with the coffee shop owner yesterday, and she seems very positive in the direction that that is headed. So we're very happy about that. Our donor appreciation event will be scheduled for September 26th at the Juneau Yacht Club. And our events committee will be meeting later this month to work on some of the details and logistics surrounding the event. And then we have the rest of the investment shown here totaling $49,637.04. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I would comment that it's always good to have board participation in the donor recognition dinner or the event, and donor appreciation event. It's always a good time. So as many, we'll get the word out, as many of you that can. Please feel Mr. Fergus, will there be a silent auction of this?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, absolutely.
No. Can dessert or no dessert?
I'm sorry, I missed that last part.
Will there be a dessert auction as well?
Absolutely.
Madam Chair, can I get the days?
It's like there's September 26th.
Correct. It's been scheduled for September 26th at the Yacht Club.
We need to, we'll call them sometime to say we're gonna go.
Yes. Any other comments or questions for these report? Seeing none, it's time to go into our first of 2 executive sessions for the evening. I would ask the senior leadership and the chief of staff to remain in the room. Thank you all. Thanks for the dinner.
Chair, I move that the Board of Directors of Bartlett Regional Hospital recess into executive session to discuss several matters not subject to public disclosure and which immediate knowledge of which clearly have adverse effect on hospital's finances, specifically the financial investments allocation and risk assessment of the strategic financial operations assessment report.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, we are now executive session. We are almost. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. I would, if we can just take a, let's say a 7-minute break, come in sometime between 7:05 and 7:10, that would be great. All right. Back in the session again. It's time to move on to committee meeting updates. Skip right here. You're up. You just take it right.
Let me just swallow. So, what didn't appear the last time we talked about our last governance meeting, this is left over. We haven't had a recent governance meeting. But we took material that we got from the finance committee, looking at CEO. Well, they had some material, and we simply took their material and tried to put it into simple sentences without subject and predicate, and arrange goals, proposed goals for the CEO. So what we have here are our attempt, the governance committee attempt to synthesize what other people have prepared and offer these to you board as goals for the CEO for 2026, which is the first half. So I'm not going to waste your time reading them. Here they are. Try to answer any questions if I wasn't clear about where this came from.
Are they just bulleted here with the actual benchmarks or highlighted somewhere? Or are you still working on that?
These are the goals.
Okay.
And so there's not, I mean, the goal is to have the highest quality care and patient safety. Somewhere else there might be attempts to break that up into objective.
You want to have all 10 of these, or are you trying to narrow it down a little further?
Well, this is what we came up with. I
Okay.
mean, it's at this point for the board to amend these or change them as the board wishes.
The proposal is for the board to accept 10 of these goals, which are in alignment with the items of matrix that we presented and approved.
That's okay. I was just clarifying it because I start the expansion of Bartlett House, but you just started. I just didn't know what it meant. Okay. Good job.
Are there any, questions?
That's right.
Okay. If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the goals for the CEO as
Madam Chair, I move that we accept these as the board goals for the CEO for 2026.
Is there any objection? Seeing none. Motion has passed. All right, Dr. Raster, now that you have.
I wrote the draft planning committee meeting minutes, and they are accurate. And so what we talked a little bit about the ER expansion. Going to find out about conduits at a later moment, but we mostly just pushed this idea of the shredder, which just seemed to make so much sense to finance to see if they thought it would make sense. So you'll hear about it shortly.
Any questions for Dr. Raster? Seeing none. Let's move on to the draft finance and audit
Yeah, thanks. Um, the minutes are there. They're accurate. As Deb said earlier, tonight, we wanted to just go a little bit deeper into the financials so that you could understand a little bit of what we saw in May. We are getting the numbers more timely, which is good. But I want to focus on some of the May results and Anita, if you could go back to page 11 in the packet, and then I want to turn it over to Joe and have him kind of walk us through the May results. And so the column that we need to focus on is the left-hand column, which is the May monthly results. Joe, do you want to kind of go through them in some?
IMAX. So if you scroll to the top, so as we looked at June or as May, revenue overall was strong. So we were busy. The biggest change or the thing that kind of pulled this month back and set it apart was our collection rate. You can see a contractual total deductions, 52%. That was about a 6% increase over where we've been running year to date. Some of these drivers behind this, and Eric touched base on this, was dysfunction in our revenue cycle. We have some opportunities to fix that. The way we do our allowance, when we get behind on collection, stuff ages out, it becomes less and less collectible for us. So we have to allow more and more of these accounts age. So the revenue cycle gets farther and farther behind. We have to set more and more aside, which makes up our line worse. And so if we look at this, there were several factors that went into the kind of the bump here. And as we look at the June, maybe some more correction. Back in November, Angela went to a more of a straight line method for doing our allowances, which works if allowances don't increase and your revenue cycle is working appropriately. We did not see either of those happen. So we had the dysfunctional revenue cycle. We saw a decrease in our commercial payers throughout the year of roughly 1%. And then we have 1% less commercial. That means more government or self-pay, which means we get paid less and we have more contractual with each of the plans. It was kind of a culmination of factors that kind of led to those. So that's what drove that 52%. So on an average month, when we go back to collection rate, if we would have been sitting at the 46, 47%, this month looks completely different. But we do have to true up as we go into audit, make sure our allowances are set up. So we are spending a lot of time looking at that. We have been doing work on a revenue cycle. Over the last 2.5 months, we started weekly meetings with the revenue cycle team, implementing changes. Some of them will start accelerating rapidly over the next 2 months if we start moving forward on some of the proposals that were put in front of us. As you scroll down to the second section, we have seen expense.
Joe, before you get away from that, I think we need to focus a little bit more on line. If you'd scroll back up, Anita, row 13, the other deductions, I want you to talk to that a little bit. And then I also want you to speak a little bit to the unbilled in-house and the lag that we've got there and what's not represented in revenue because of that.
Yeah, the driving factors, the other factors that we had and other deductions is we've had some rather large write-ups for no prior authorizations for services. And so as we look at last year, we have roughly $2.2 million in claims that we've just, which would have been a collectible, but we did not receive a prior authorization. You'll see kind of some of the providers have seen this. We've sent emails out that surgeries will not be scheduled without a prior authorization in place. Of that $1 million you have up there, $684,000 was for an Aetna infusion patient. And so that is the case that would have paid 98%. So that's $684,000 in cash, roughly, that Bartlett doesn't have today because the prior auth was not in place for services. What we've done to kind of mitigate and stop this process is we're going to centralize the prior auth therein for scheduled services. Make sure that every service that requires a prior auth will have one before that service is even scheduled in the house. We understand as we try to get to this, there could be delays. We're going to try to mitigate those as much as possible by the appropriate staff.
But this is come to the point where we can't ignore the financial implications and not have prior authorizations. So I apologize to surgeons to start. You're the first one required.
What's the service line? Is it orthopedics? Is it oncology?
Across the board, everything that needs a prior auth, you'll see RAS for all of them. The infusion therapy was an oncology case. We do have some RAS, some surgeries, or surgeries get scheduled without a prior auth. Patient shows up, no prior auth. It creates kind of this issue between scheduling and surgeons that we're trying to mitigate by just getting in front of it. Some of this might be alleviated by the new legislation that was passed in the state. So as of January 1st, some of the stuff, prior auth for chronic care conditions are only had to be received once. It does change the requirement for some of that. But we do have to ensure that we have a place for billing.
That's the coming January 1. That hadn't happened yet.
Yeah, it's January 127.
So in general, whose responsibility was it to have gotten the permit? Or is it a bunch of different people?
It's kind of that's a good question, Al. So we do it multiple different ways, which creates some of our dysfunction. Sometimes the clinics provide them for services. Imaging is a good one. They provide prior auth. Surgery, the surgeons get prior auth a lot of the time. Infusion therapy is done in the house a lot. That's why.
But when you say the surgeons do it a lot of the time, I'm getting the sense that there's not a clear procedure and a single person responsible.
There's not.
For each type of thing.
So that's
Joe, without getting too detailed on this, would you go on and speak a little bit to the lag that you've got in dropping bills?
Yeah, the second piece to this is as we've spun up so many services, medicine, population peds, as we brought home health and hospice inside, as we brought Wildflower Port inside, we've added a lot of additional complexity to our billing office. So before it was just hospital services. Now we have primary care, we have hospice, home health, Wildflower Port. Each of these are billed in different ways. And so as we've added this complexity, that's created a delay in the billing process. And then enrollment goes back to it too, as you're trying to get people enrolled in Medicaid get contracts with insurance, stuff takes time to get in place. A good example is pediatrics. We are still in the process of billing January. So getting January goes out the door. Some of this was due to lags in getting providers enrolled or not enrolled and then tied to our hospital. Some of this was driven by Medicaid, Aetna, Blue Cross. A lot of that's in place, but now it's a process of just doing your day-to-day plus catching up on all of these things. There's other ones as well. We're behind on billing our orthopedic surgeons, family medicine. It has a lag. I think we've got through the end of May at this point, so trying to get caught up. This does add to the complexity, and it goes back to the point here that we have some issues in our revenue cycle. We've added complexity to that over the last 6 months. So what would have been, a tough project has become increasingly difficult. And so when we look at that particular issue, is like we have to go through, make sure we have good, clean processes, we have good stops, make sure we have payable services, while ensuring we have adequate staffing for all these different services and that they're trained appropriately to make sure we're getting the bills out and getting paid appropriately.
And getting a rev cycle director in place is just key to this, correct?
Yeah, it's something that Eric's came back to over and over and over is the need for a revenue cycle. His words, not mine, before I say them, is you need one throat to choke when there's an issue with revenue cycle. Right now, everyone's pointing at everyone because there's so many different people playing in the sandbox at this point. So their recommendation is you have one person to control all the different processes, so we don't have silos. We have a single solitary revenue cycle process. Is there anything else you want me to cover in that next?
I think we've kind of covered the brass tacks, but Anita, if you would scroll down on the page, just because you guys really need to make sure you are dialed in on the, the impact of that. Of course, as you can see bottom left, we had the net is about a $1.9 million loss we have an unknown, but still to be booked additional revenue amount prior to us closing the 2026 financial statements related to getting the rest of these bills out, and they're prioritizing that. So that number will improve as we get those revenues recorded. But obviously there's a lot of work on rev cycle that needs to happen.
Yeah, this is a kind of we're taking a multi approach to this. We are going back and revisiting all our past practices. So we've reinvigorated revenue cycle. We are now meeting daily for a half hour, going back through all our position controls. As you saw, is kind of the FTE numbers up there. We have had some growth, and so we need to revisit that. Is it appropriate? Do we need to revisit those issues? We're looking through contracts again, and then the big focus is just on revenue growth at this point. We have a lot of the pieces in place, but now we just need to get a lot of these projects over the finish line. The first one that you'll see and hear about is probably lab from family medicine coming to the hospital. We'll also be pushing hard on the rural health clinics, getting that up and going, as well as getting the provider-based stats for ophthalmology. And then we'll try to expedite 340B conferences as well. There's a lot of opportunity, but then we're trying to make sure we're spreading the load. So we're pulling additional team members into these processes, trying to get a lot of these projects done as fast as possible, while making sure we're not adding complexity to the building. Because every time you change a status, that changes how the use it. Right. Rural health clinic's a good example. Right now, we build one that's called the 1500, which is a provider-based build statement, which most of the doctors are probably familiar with. Once you become a rural health clinic, it goes out on a UB, which is a hospital-based claim, which changes how we build the claim, which means my staff needs retrained too. We are going through the line items expense-wise. We're tightening the belts, trying to make sure, discretionary travel has been stopped. We're pulling back on all overtime. We're looking at contract staff at this point.
Question for you on line 20. Actually, it's line 21, that physician wages, is that still related to the clinics coming on board? Why that's so much of a variance with the budget?
Yeah, I mean, we've added multiple clinics. There's some of it's timing too with some of the way the payments run out from some of the physicians. Yeah, and so that's why you see that increasing over. And you'll see that the physician contracts has dropped slightly to offset that. That's as we change status from contracted to employed. We're also going back and looking at all of the clinics, making sure we're appropriately staffed in those spaces. Do we have appropriate productivity measures in place to make sure, when we bring these people in, are we seeing adequate number of patients a given day? So I would say everyone in the team's putting a lot of focus on this day-to-day basis.
Thanks, Joe. Unless there's any more questions on that, I'll move on in the report here. Anita, if you could drop back down to page 45. We have 2 action items tonight. The first one is kind of a house cleaning. We had to increase our total expense appropriation. So when the CBJ passes a budget, it passes an expense appropriation, and we needed to increase ours for mainly for the clinics. It's important to understand that it's not money we're asking for from CBJ. It's being paid for by the clinics. But it's just an authorization to spend essentially, and it's pretty common. We don't do it every year, but it's fairly common. This has already been through the CBJ assembly on a first cut, so we're approving it now, and then it'll go back to the full assembly. You can see the ordinance there, but there is a motion from Finance and Audit for the board to approve $12 million of appropriation. Deb?
Yes. Yeah, you would entertain, sorry.
The motion's there from the committee.
Is there any objection? It's been passed to the committee. Is there any objection in passing this? Seeing that.
So the next one is on page 48 of the packet. And this is back to Dr. Raster's presentation and planning. And it is a basically authorization to Joe to give him the authority to decide on the timing and the purchase of the shredder. We were feeling a little bit cautious on spending money, maybe is the best way to put it, at finance. And so we've just asked Joe to figure out the best time to go get that into place. It does look like there is ample reason to do it. So again, Deb?
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, the motion passes.
And that's all I had.
Thank you, Max. Any questions for Max?
Make a quick comment as a community member. I understand that that Reach was doing the shredding for the hospital prior to this. And I just know that Reach is a really valuable organization in our community for connecting people that might not otherwise have job opportunities with job opportunities. And wonder if the hospital would consider continuing to hire some people that are currently working within Reach for shredding, just a community.
Yes, something I'm looking to.
I can speak to it a little bit because I use Reach. And the problem is, what Angela had said is that they got to be way too delayed. And
Yes.
Volume generated by this hospital is enormous. So I can have two dumpsters, sitting in my clinic. I don't know here. But the cost, the reimbursement, we will actually start making money in savings within less than 2 years. And so it just makes total fiscal sense. And I said the same thing about Reach. So the private clinics are going to keep the Reach system going.
And not so much, I mean, Reach is a great organization. I, appreciate supporting them when possible, but also, I understand that they provide jobs within Reach to do the physical shredding. So I don't know if that would be something the hospital would consider if there is hiring opportunities to hire from within the Reach population.
From a staffing perspective, we have at any given time multiple individuals be on that duty. Because this is actually a perfect task for them. And sometimes we're just giving them work to do that's not really meaningful. This is something that adds value to the hospital. So
I understand, but there's probably right.
Are there any other questions or comments for Max? Okay. That would be executive administration report starting to go.
all right, so we talked about the financials. That's probably been, 150% of my hours this month. The other piece of that was we did get 3 of our applications submitted for the rural health transformation. Waiting on a timeline for the state to get those back. We hope by mid-July, so we can start implementing some of this stuff starting in August 1st. More to come on that. The plan being is if the state comes back and approves any of our applications, we'll be trying to get together a planning meeting and get some of this stuff in front of the board as fast as possible for approval. I know that this ultimately has to go through the board, but I don't want to be getting a bunch of approvals that just go to the wayside. So as these come forward, we'll be getting with Dr. Lester and getting planning in front of us. The other news that's like sharing this is kind of a positive. We did talk about Michelle Van Kirk and kind of the incident at the school last football season where she was able to save one of the football players when they had a medical event. She was recognized with CCF NAR, CCF NAR. And so she was awarded a letter of appreciation plus a CCFR point. So I was just want to point that out to the board members that I guess we recognize Michelle for her good work on that. Another thing that kind of came up is Bartlett was named the most social responsible hospital in the state of Alaska. in Becker's, and it was by the Loan Institute, so that is out there. There was 2,500 hospitals that were ranked in the hospital, and had the highest score in the state of Alaska.
That's good. Do you know Eddings is blind?
While we were hiring, there's actually an article about it.
It goes over the-
Questions?
But I mean, there must have been some feature that you pointed out, right? Since I didn't read.
I think the only good answer I had for that is I could share the Becker's article that points to it, and if you guys can look at the actual recognition.
Yeah, they pulled the metrics from CMS, and that we don't have anything from this. So
No, nothing intentional when we did receive it. So,
Okay. Okay.
that's what my report, not a lot other than writing the ship, I guess.
Any questions or comments for Joe? All right. Okay, you, Mr. Brown, I believe.
All right. It's been a while since I've given the update for HR, but so union negotiations, as I mentioned, have been postponed until September, October per the request of the union. We've recently, as we mentioned, been talking about the A3 processes. We have well over a dozen departmental A3s focusing on the 3 categories that we discussed a couple months ago. So looking forward to tracking those and getting those back in front of you as they continue to roll forward. Obviously, UKG is continuing to be like taking a lot of our time in HR. So we've got a few different pieces to roll back up, but I'm sorry. So we got leave of absence tracking. We're in the process of testing that. We are going to be going live with our applicant tracking system early next month. Same thing with performance reviews using coaching. So it's all going to be housed in one system. All of that's going to lead to the predictive analytics that come in the system as well, which I'm really excited about. We are testing the property feature, so that's going to allow all of our people to, so IT, when they issue a phone or a laptop, they're going to be able to track all the information in there. So when a person finally separates or whatever, we know exactly what we're supposed to get back. So that's going to be condensed into one place right now. Facilities has the keys, IT has the technology, we have the badges, it's just kind of disparate. So, you know, so again, the predictive analytics have been pushed until after the other components are there. Benefits enrollment, we also pushed to Q3. We didn't want to do benefits and enrollment for open enrollment. Just having 900 people try to enroll in benefits in a brand new system seemed like a bad idea. So we pushed that to do in the third quarter. So we can just do small classes at a given time, make sure that's all working well. There's also an opportunity to implement a giving campaign. UKG Pro has an option where we can actually embed into the process the ability to give, whether that's Bartlett Foundation or if there was other charities that we said support. So I think that's really kind of a neat feature that I didn't even know was there until we were going through this part of the implementation, and wanted to share that with you guys. So still optimizing some payroll pieces. The employee self-service is completed. So people have time to call, they want to get their addresses changed or, you know, change their deductions. All that's self-service now. So we can point them right back to the system and have them do it. So pretty stoked about that. And then our HRS team is continuing with the training education for both staff and managers. The HRS team, I call them OT2, optimization team 2. Which is Tiana and Victoria. They're actually going to department meetings. They're meeting with the teams. They're meeting with the individual managers, and they're walking them through some of the differences between the old system and the new system. So pretty happy about all that. Any questions? Continues to be a big project. Next page. Oh yeah, sorry.
I was just gonna say, will you see the end? There's the town.
Do I see the end of it? I do. We're getting to the part that's fun for me. Like, I'm not a payroll junkie. Like, I'm not, yeah, payroll codes. Yeah, those are awesome. No, I really don't. I like the coaching. I like the people. I like the applicant tracking. That's stuff where we can really start to add value and you can really start to streamline processes. One of the things that we noticed is, so if we had, I'll give you an example, when we had an admin coordinator position posted on LinkedIn, we had 432 people that clicked on the advertisement. And 432, that's a lot of people. But actually came through the Bartlett application process, 1%. That's terrible. Part of that is because the Bartlett application process is candidly awful. It's incredibly long. We make you put in your resume and then fill out everything that's on your resume again. And that just drives me nuts. I mean, that's just something so like my philosophy with this is it's got to be done in under 5 minutes and it's got to be able to be done on your phone. And that's the other part is all of this is mobile friendly. So a lot of people don't even have computers anymore. A lot of people only have tablets and phones. So as long as they can do that, same thing, all of the onboarding paperwork that used to all be, we would email you a packet and we'd have people snapping pictures of it or bringing in, this much paperwork. It's all going to be signed through the system. So they'll get it, they'll pull it up. It's going to auto-populate using, I think they call them meta tags or something tags. So it'll like their names, all their pertinent information will pre-fill out. And all they gotta do is sign off on it. So it's going to really streamline the process. We're really excited about it. So, and this is, there were so many comments on Aaron's charts the other month that I figured I better throw some charts up and impress you guys. So it's just a simple report that pulls out of the system. So over the last 12 months, these are our new hires. This does include travelers. I'm working on trying to carve travelers out of this particular report. But you can see the 12-month rolling trend. You can see the hires by the age banding, hires by gender, ethnicity, and of course, Fair Labor Standards Act type, so exempt or not, since salary or hourly folks. So I thought that was some interesting information that presents to you guys on a regular basis if you find it valuable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thanks.
I can cover.
Thanks, anything additional?
No, that's it.
Okay. Great. Where are we at now? Yeah. We have a liaison report this evening. We lost our, at the first executive session, we lost our assembly. Well, she is where I wouldn't say I'd prefer to be there, but she is listening to the Cabillion people talk about the flood, the upcoming flood. Yeah. So that's where she's at. Next.
So a couple updates. We had, I think a communicated press potentially regarding some NRP changes. We did have a memo go out from our OB neonatal community that scheduled deductions of labor will not be performed for those less than 37 weeks. Sorry, scheduled deduction of labor less than 37 weeks gestation will not be offered at Bartlett. So that we shared. And then we had our first CRNA work this month, Christopher Matila. Not heard any significant issues, and that's nothing. It was very busy weeks. I think we're still working through some of the logistical and messaging. This is like part of the process. That sounds.
I think staff that he's pleasant and thought that he did a great job.
It's going to be really help decrease turnaround times as he's doing blocks in the same day, which we've been, it's been one of our goals to be able to do that so the patient's not getting a block in the OR room, having time for the case. Yeah, so with the feedback.
Confusion is we're all learning how they're going to be embedded in the system, what their scheduling is going to be for availability and that. So working to work together to.
If I may, for the record, we have had multiple conversations on how the staffing, what the role of the CRNA would be with the remaining anesthesiologists. So I've been emailing them since before they came on. We just need to have a reminder of, I think they're more interested in what the staffing model is going to be, which we haven't come to a decision on what that looks like yet.
And then we have an action item, which is CRNA delineation of privileges. And this, if we can pull that up, Anita. It's modification of the delineation of privileges for CRNA. A note on the changes, which are all in red. The top one that we scrolled past is something that's on all of our new delineation of privileges, just a little bit of a blanket statement recognizing that delineation of privileges says what a provider can do within the hospital, just to be clear, and what their basic requirements are for training and what they can do. So that note at the top is going on all of them now because it's really hard to break down every detail of what somebody's allowed to do in the hospital, so that it's not specific to a CRNA. And then there was a strike for waiving the number of cases for applicants that have been trained within the last 6 months. And then the number of cases within the last 24 months has increased from 100 to 400, and the additions of ACLS and PAL certification. And then the primary privileges, the red text there is that there was nothing in that category before. A lot of this delineation of privileges have been carried over in a system, a new computer system. And so these are, additions to that. This hadn't been reviewed in a while, so basically. So that the writing in red under primary privileges is new, and then if we scroll down, the red there again is new. Everything else was in existence on.
Madam Chair, I move the Barton Regional Hospital Board of Directors to approve the proposed changes.
So well,
It's already evaluation. And we can post on that if you want.
I have a couple, did this go to the credentials committee?
Yes, this came from the credentials.
I know it, and they made these changes and presented them to MedStat. When did that happen?
So it went to MedExec.
Okay.
And then MedExec sent it back to credentials, and credentials approved these changes, sent it back to MedExec. And that's it. The DOPs do not have to go through the MedExec. We do as a person, we do a little share this, but we thought that it was important to do these quickly.
Yeah. Did I miss it? Was I asleep at the last credentials committee? I don't remember seeing this come back to the credentials.
It came from the credentials committee, from the last credentials.
Who's at the last credentials meeting?
I must have missed it.
There was an initial coming from the credentials committee tagline about in the case of emergencies, something, which is not on any other delineation of privileges, with for anybody else in the hospital. So when MedExec reviewed that, we asked that they remove the emergency caveat, feeling that it wasn't appropriate to have an emergency caveat on a delineation of privileges. But that is the only reason I went back to credentials for review, and they went through, they got appropriately approved by a majority of their committee, and then appropriately approved by a majority of the medical.
Did you let the board know what the emergency caveat was?
Yeah, there was, I would have to pull it up. I would have to go back to my emails to get the specific one, but there was, do we want to talk about, I'm not sure that this is, do we want to talk about this now? I think this would actually probably more appropriate for executive session.
I don't disagree with that. Can we table this for now? Just,
I think if we want to go into the details of committee discussions, we should probably do that in an executive
so
session.
can we table the vote on this motion?
There's no second. You can do whatever you want.
Okay, and we'll discuss it in executive session. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have?
Sorry, nothing else.
Okay. since we have had a long evening already, I would say that the bulk of my time and many of the other board members has been working on the presentation that we received and how to mitigate our financial situation. So we've talked about it a lot. I don't need to add to it, I don't think. So that being said, let's move on to the board calendar.
I would prefer, if I may, the planning's not on the third. I could do it on the tenth if we need to. So Kim will just text me based on her conduit discovery.
Is that a holiday for the hospital?
The third is.
The third is
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, we're still.
so we would have had to, I mean, we could have.
Yes. Just for flexibility and looking at rural transformation, would you consider the 17th, I guess the 17th, we think about a special meeting. Just trying to be flexible. If we get recognition from rural health transformation, we might have to call a special meeting. Just bring it to your attention.
10, 17, and 24, I'm here for all of them. Noon is fine.
I guess we can put it on the 10th, and if we don't get a response, we'll maybe reach out to you and just reschedule.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, quality compliance. Are we good for quality compliance? For the 16th? Okay, good. Yeah, be the 16th, 3:30 p.m. Okay. Just hard to believe it's.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. And joint conference still works for you, Dr. Totten. And then
Yes.
I hear you. Okay.
the 20th. And then finance and audit is on the 22nd. And the committee was all there and other great, so. Okay. And we're talking about the special meeting. One of the things that Joe and I have been talking about is placing it on the 17th, Friday the 17th. If that works for folks. And what time of day? We talked first thing in the morning is what you and I talked about, I think.
Yeah, we're basically renting the airport room for the day, and we'll look to do a 4-hour meeting with the board members to go over special, multiple items associated with the report we just saw.
The 17th.
July, isn't that the date you guys just moved the?
That's why we put it to the 10th, because
Oh, the 10th. Oh, okay.
I'm gonna be on a plane that day, the 17th.
it's one of those months where the calendar is kind of still aligned, because like some of the gaps there is other meetings with med staff on the 21st. And so there's multiple conflicting points trying to find a time that fits.
Yeah, 17, 18 is not that great for me either, actually.
We looked at the 24th was the other option.
Can you do the 13th?
I am at a family reunion on the 13th.
If we moved quality on 16,
Yeah, I'll get back on the 15th. Be more appropriate for the forward to talk about.
Yes, I think so. Yes, I would agree with that. So bottom line is we're going to try and set up a 4-hour meeting, special meeting of the board to be held at the airport. Assuming that we could get the space.
We'll make sure the room's filled before we do that.
Yeah. And more to come on that. All right. With the change made, I would accept and entertain a motion to accept the calendar as amended with the understanding that special board meeting
is yet to be confirmed.
I move the Board of Directors of Bartlett Regional Hospital approve the board calendar as presented. Amended.
Any objections? Okay.
Approved. Board comments and questions before we move into executive session? I would also, our board meetings are limited to 3 hours. Our 3 hours are up in 5 minutes. So I would entertain a motion to extend the board meeting for another 30 minutes to 8:30. So we can go into executive session. Does anybody want to do that?
Madam Chair, I move that we extend our board meeting.
That we left out. Is there any objection?
Well, of course, some.
Yes. I haven't heard any objections, so I'm assuming that this process is files. All right.
Madam Chair, I move the Board of Directors of Bartlett Regional Hospital recess into executive session to discuss several matters, including those which by law, the district charter, or ordinance are required to be confidential or involve consideration of priors. But not subject to public disclosure, specifically the credentialing report, the medical staff meeting minutes, patient safety dashboard, and the update.
Any objection to that? All right, seeing none. We are going into executive session.
Good.
I
I move that we accept the credentialing report.
Second.
Are there any objections? Seeing and hearing none. The motion passes.
I also move the Bartlett Regional Hospital Board of Directors approve the proposed changes to the CRNA delineation of privileges as presented.
Any objection? Okay. Next time. I said more to come. Next time when we meet, we'll have all kinds of different things to talk about. Thank you all. This meeting is adjourned with